we have regulations, we have these laws on the books, but they're at risk of being deemed unconstitutional, and all of the regulations and laws that we have could potentially be struck down at any time.
Hi, I'm JJ Jasper with American Family Radio. What a treat to be here on Corn Fed Life with Craig and Corrine.
Save me a piece of that corn.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Corn Fed Life. We're here with Emily. Hello, Emily.
Hi.
And we got in touch with Emily through a previous video that we made. And it was a video about Value Them Both, the new amendment that is coming up for vote here on August 2nd here in Kansas. And we made a podcast about it. And Emily reached out to us and had some ideas and thoughts. And so we reached out to her, and here she is. And we wanted to get her perspective as a lifelong Kansan. As most of you know, my wife and I have only been Kansans for a year. So she had some interesting perspectives and knows a little bit more about the laws and whatnot. So we wanted to get her on here so she can kind of explain in a little more detail some of the things that we missed. So if you would, Emily, just introduce yourself, maybe tell us a little about what you do, your family, or whatever you want to share.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me. I'm from Salina, Kansas. I've lived in Kansas all my life. Born and bred here. I went to college briefly at Benedictine College, and then I went into teaching preschool. So I've been teaching preschool now for the last 6 years, and I have moved since to the Kansas City area. So now I'm in the greater Kansas City metro area. I've been there for about 5 years now. Still on the Kansas side, still repping Kansas.
Right on. Okay, so what I wanted to talk to you about today is there's kind of a lot of misinformation going around. Unfortunately, there's some on both sides. I think the majority of it, I would say, is on the no side. But I have seen even a little on the yes side. And so I want to get things straight because for me, it's all about the truth. I want to know the truth. If I'm going to vote, I want to know what's going on. So I have a couple questions for you that I think you have more insight into you. So Value Them Both says that we need common sense regulations. But the no side says we already have laws in Kansas regulating abortion. So this is just a waste of time. We've already got laws on the books. Can you explain why that is or isn't true and a little more about that?
Yeah. So we have regulations, we have these laws on the books, but they're at risk of being deemed unconstitutional, and all of the regulations and laws that we have could potentially be struck down at any time. Now, this might kind of sound like a scare tactic from the Value Them Both side, but the fact is that it's already happened. It's happened with 2 of our laws. Yeah, so it's happened with the sanitation law and with the ban on D&E abortions. So just to get into a little bit of the background and where that started, in 2015, the Senate passed a bill, Senate Bill 95, and it was banning dilation and evacuation abortions. So that's dismemberment abortions. This was voted on and passed through the Senate. It passed through the House. It was approved by the governor, and it was put into law. And then 2 doctors who provide abortions, Nauger and Hodes, they sued the state for it, saying that it infringes on a woman's right to abortion. They had to prove, in order to win this case, they had to prove that the Constitution allowed a right to abortion, and they had to prove that this specific bill infringes on that right. Now, I'm getting this information from the 2019 court decision. They go on for probably 100 pages explaining their arguments, but to consolidate that, they're saying that it infringes on the first section of the Kansas Constitution. So that we all know that, the first section 1 of the Kansas Constitution says, all men are possessed of equal and inalienable natural rights, among which are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So they took that section and they basically argued that part of our natural rights include bodily autonomy, which also includes the decision whether or not to continue a pregnancy. And then they went on to argue that Senate Bill 95 infringes on that because the D&E is the most popular second trimester abortion, and they claim it's the safest. That can be up for debate, but they claim that that's the safest, and so that's infringing on a right to abortion. And the courts agreed with them. The courts agreed that the Constitution saying that we have a right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness can extend to mean that we have a right to abortion, and it can extend to mean that this bill is infringing on that right. And so under those guidelines, really any regulation we have, you could see that it could, in that way, it could infringe on a right to abortion. So all the regulations that we have could now be deemed unconstitutional. So we want to pass value them both to say that technically there's no right to abortion in the Kansas Constitution, and therefore we can continue to make laws and regulations regarding abortion.
Okay, and so the type of abortion you're mentioning, D&E, is that correct?
Yes.
What is that exactly? What is the street name for that?
Yeah, that's dismemberment abortion. So just to be clear, the cause of fetal demise is not any prior injection or anything like that. It is from pulling the baby out of the uterus.
Okay. So and I think that people on either side of the issue can clearly see that that's inhumane to reach in there and literally like tear the baby limb from limb, right? Yeah. So I see what you're saying. So it's the vote no people are basically saying, hey, we've got these laws. And that's sort of true because there are the laws. But what you're telling me is that there are the laws, but it's already shown that they can be overridden by a judge based on the new interpretation of the Kansas Supreme Court. So you could say that technically there may be no laws.
Yeah, I mean, essentially, if any of these were brought to court, they could make similar arguments and they could tear any one of them down, take that off the book as well. So,
okay. Yeah, and I think that that's something that like we can meet in the middle on, because I think even people that are for abortion, I would say probably a great amount of them would agree that these really late term, for lack of a better term, gruesome abortions should not be practiced. I mean, I believe that in most of the developed world, Europe and different places, they have pretty strict limits about, I think most countries say the first trimester only, or something thereabout. So to go beyond that and say like, these can happen in the second and third trimester is pretty gruesome. And I think the rest of the world would look at us like, hey, that's pretty disgusting. So we do need some sort of regulation.
I just want to clarify that in this bill, it does make exceptions for, medical emergencies, life of the mother. But yeah, you're right. Generally speaking, Kansas does want those regulations. They don't want later term abortions. And we know that because we've voted our legislatures in. We've had that say into who's passing these laws. And so this is just democracy at work when we vote for these people and for these laws to pass.
Okay, so basically over the years, Kansans have put in place certain laws and regulations, and then suddenly with one swipe of the pen, the Kansas Supreme Court has said, no rules anymore, basically, that any of these laws can be challenged, even though these were put in place by the will of the people.
Exactly.
Right. And
essentially, if Value Them Both passes, it's just going to revert us back to where we were 2 years ago and how we've been for decades. So.
Right. Awesome. Yeah. And so personally, my belief is that all abortion should be banned. Kind of the reason I wanted you to discuss these is because I want people that are in the middle and maybe a little on the left can see why some of these are necessary. But then their pullback might be, they might say, well, if this gets in, then the next thing is an immediate ban of all abortions is going to follow. Is that the case? If Value Them Both gets in, will a full ban on abortion automatically or necessarily follow?
Yes, so no, that would not happen. It's not an if-then statement. It's not if Value Them Both passes, then abortions will be banned. No, it's just if Value Them Both passes, then it puts that power back into the legislature. Full transparency, you and I would love to down the road later see it be banned. We'd love to see it voted on that way. But if it's ever banned, that's going to come from a vote. It's not something that legislature can just, cram down in the middle of the night. It's not happening like that. It's if the people of Kansas want it, if we vote for it. So.
Okay. Yeah. So it basically would just hand the power back to the people in the legislature to make those changes. So if that were going to happen, if there was going to be an outright ban, that it would be, we would be aware of it coming and there would be votes on it, whether by the people or the legislature. So it would be kind of the will of the people.
Exactly.
Right. Awesome. So I hope that provides a little bit of clarity. And Emily has provided me with some links where you can actually look up these different laws and things that she's discussed. And so we encourage you to read it for yourself and make your own decision. This is a super important election, though, so we do hope that you'll reach out to your friends and family. We need everybody voting on this because the whole nation really is watching Kansas right now, aren't they?
Yeah. Yes, lots of pressure.
Yeah. This is mostly because this is the first post-Roe election on the subject. Some states have jumped ahead and already passed trigger bans, but this is the first election that will take place after Roe was overturned. So everyone is kind of watching to see what is Kansas going to do.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. Well, I appreciate you, Emily, coming on and discussing this with us. And we love your perspective as a native Kansan and somebody who's very familiar with these different things. And thanks for sharing your time with us. And I encourage everybody once again, get out on August 2nd and make sure you vote, right?
Right, yes, and know your facts, get out and vote. Don't just assume that it's going to pass. Go vote.
Right. Absolutely. Yep. Well, thanks, Emily, and thanks everyone for tuning in. We hope this video helped clarify things for everybody. And have a blessed day, and we'll see you on the next one.
Thanks.
Hey Lucy, I remember your name. I left a dozen roses on your grave today. I'm in the grass on my knees, wipe the leaves away. I just came to talk for a while, got some things I need to say. Now that it's over, I just wanna hold her. I give up all the world to see that little piece of heaven looking back at me. Now that it's over, I just wanna hold her. I've gotta live with the choices I made, and I can't live with myself today.